You know, millions of people around the world grapple with infertility. It's a huge challenge.
It really is.
And we often think about hormones or maybe structural problems, lifestyle
The
factors.
usual suspects.
Exactly. But have you ever really stopped to consider the role of something like, well, vaginal health in actually being able to conceive?
It's fascinating, isn't it? That's exactly the territory we're getting into in this deep dive.
Yeah.
The information you shared really puts a spotlight on this connection
Which often just flies under the radar.
completely.
Right.
So we're going to unpack how that specific environment right there can significantly influence the whole journey to pregnancy.
Right. Because the material we looked at, it really emphasizes how vital the vaginal microbiome is and, how disruptions can seriously complicate things. So I guess our mission today is to really get a clear understanding of how supporting a healthy vaginal ecosystem could be, well, a really vital step for people facing infertility struggle.
Absolutely. A crucial piece of the puzzle.
Okay, let's dive in then. So why is vaginal health just so fundamental, like for reproductive health overall?
Well, fundamentally, you have to think of the vaginal ecosystem as both the first line of defense, that protective barrier, and also a really vital environment for reproduction itself.
Okay.
As the information highlights, the vaginal microbiome is, well, mostly dominated by lactobacillus bacteria.
Right, the good guys.
Exactly, the beneficial residents. And their presence is absolutely key to keeping a healthy acidic pH level in the vagina, usually somewhere between, say, 3.8 and 4.5.
And that specific acidity, that number range, it's not just random, is it? What makes that pH so important?
Yeah, it's critical. That acidic environment does a couple of really important jobs. First, it's like a natural defense system. It stops less desirable bacteria and fungi from overgrowing.
Keeps things in check.
Exactly. Think of it as this constant balancing act. And second, and this is really relevant for our chat today, this slightly acidic pH actually creates an environment where sperm are, well, more likely to survive their journey.
Okay, so if that pH balance gets thrown off, say it becomes less acidic, maybe more alkaline, what happens then beyond just, the obvious risk of an infection?
Right. Well, that shift can have a couple of pretty significant knock-on effects. Not only does it make it easier for those, let's call them less helpful, microbes to thrive, which ups the infection risk, but it also directly impacts the sperm themselves. Their ability to move properly, their motility, and just their overall viability can be reduced.
No, it makes their trip much harder.
Much, much harder. Getting to the cervix becomes a real challenge.
Okay, so keeping that acidic pH is job number one, basically. Now, the material also talks a lot about preventing infections. How do things like bacterial vaginosis or yeast infections, even UTIs, how do they play into fertility problems?
Yeah, this is a really, really important connection. Infections down there can basically trigger a whole cascade of events that directly get in the way of fertility.
Okay.
So let's take bacterial vaginosis, BV. The info we reviewed points out that it's an overgrowth of those less helpful bacteria. And that leads to inflammation, sometimes discharge, maybe an odor. But the key thing is, BV has actually been linked to poorer sperm health.
Wow.
And even complications in early pregnancy.
So it's not just about getting pregnant, but potentially staying pregnant too, isn't it?
That's a really key point, yes. What about yeast infections? They seem so common.
They are incredibly common. And, while we often think of them as just causing that immediate awful itching and discomfort, the overgrowth of candida in a yeast infection causes itching, irritation, and importantly, inflammation.
Inflammation again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that inflammatory response can just make it a less welcoming place for sperm trying to, make their way.
Okay, and UTIs, you mentioned those two. I tend to think of them as just bladder issues.
Mostly they are, you're right. Urinary tract infections primarily hit the urinary system. But if someone gets them recurrently over and over,
that can contribute to inflammation in the sort of wider pelvic area. And if those infections are frequent, it's possible that inflammation could potentially spread or affect the reproductive tract nearby.
Ah, okay.
Which could indirectly make conception a bit harder.
That makes sense. Wow, it really shows how everything in that area is so interconnected.
Definitely.
Now, another thing the material brought up was cervical mucus quality. I kind of just thought it was there. But it sounds like it has a much more active role.
Oh, absolutely. Cervical mucus is vital, really vital for fertility. It's like the transport system. It helps sperm travel from the vagina up through the cervix and into the uterus.
Okay.
And it also gives the sperm some protection on that journey. So a healthy vaginal environment helps support the production of balanced cervical mucus, the right kind.
The kind that helps sperm.
Exactly, the kind that lets sperm move effectively and stay viable.
But if things are, out of whack down there, inflammation or infection,
Yeah.
how does that mess with the mucus?
Well, when there's inflammation or an infection present, it can really change the mucus quality quite drastically.
How so?
It might become, say, thicker or maybe less permeable, so sperm can't get through easily.
Yeah.
Or it could even become, well, hostile, chemically hostile.
Well.
Yeah, making it much, much tougher for sperm to survive, let alone reach the egg.
So it's like pulling up the welcome mat for sperm.
Got it. And then there's inflammation itself. The sources mention chronic inflammation in the vaginal or cervical area as a problem. Why is that specifically bad for fertility?
Right. Chronic inflammation, think of it like a low-grade persistent irritation. It can hinder fertility in a few ways.
Okay.
It can actually weaken the delicate tissues lining the vagina and cervix. It can disrupt that crucial balance of the microbiome we talked about. And as we sort of touched on, it just contributes to an overall environment that is not friendly to sperm survival or movement. So conditions like, untreated vaginitis, ongoing BV, those recurring yeast infections, they can all feed into this chronic inflammation cycle. This really paints a clear picture. Vaginal health and fertility are just deeply, deeply linked.
They really are.
So, okay, what are some of the common culprits? What throws this delicate balance off to begin with?
Well, the information we looked at points to several key things. Hormonal imbalances are a big one.
Right.
Fluctuations that happen with conditions like PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, or thyroid disorders, even just during menopause. And they can change the vaginal pH.
But that affects the good bacteria.
Exactly. It can reduce the population of those beneficial lactobacillus.
Okay, that makes sense given how much hormones control. What about things maybe more in our direct control? Lifestyle stuff?
Oh, lifestyle definitely plays a role. The overuse of antibiotics is a major one. They're meant to kill harmful bacteria, obviously, but they can also wipe out the good guys in the vaginal microbiome too.
Collateral damage.
Pretty much, which leads to imbalance and makes you more vulnerable. And then there are habits like a diet really high in sugar, chronic stress, maybe not drinking enough water.
Dehydration? Really?
Yeah, they can all sort of weaken the immune system generally and make the body more prone to things like yeast infections specifically.
And I guess it's probably not a huge surprise that some products we use might cause issues too.
Absolutely. Using harsh products, things like heavily scented soaps, douches, which are generally not recommended anyway, or other chemical-heavy feminine hygiene products, they can really disrupt the natural pH balance and irritate those sensitive tissues.
Creating an opening for problems.
Precisely. Setting the stage for imbalances.
We already touched on recurrent infections, but it sounds like they can trap you in a kind of negative loop.
Exactly that. Persistent problems like recurring BV or yeast infections or UTIs, they don't just cause trouble in the moment. They can also weaken the overall vaginal barrier over time. That makes it even easier for future infections to get a foothold and for that chronic inflammation to just keep going.
It's a vicious cycle.
It can be, yeah.
And lastly, stress. It feels like stress affects everything these days, including this.
It really does seem to have wide-reaching effects. High levels of stress can weaken the immune system overall, making the body less efficient at fighting off infections. And there's some evidence it can also directly interfere with the delicate balance of the vaginal microbiome itself.
Making you more susceptible again.
Yeah, increasing that susceptibility to the kinds of infections that can then get in the way of fertility.
Wow. Okay, so it really seems like keeping a healthy vaginal environment needs, well, attention on multiple fronts.
It does.
Now, the material we've been looking through, it introduces a potential aid here, something called balance complex. What can you tell us about that based on what we read?
Right, balance complex. It's presented in the sources as a scientifically formulated vaginal probiotic. The idea is that it's designed to help restore and maintain optimal vaginal health. So the stated goal is to support a healthy microbiome, help reduce inflammation down there, and ultimately create a more balanced environment that's, favorable for conception.
It sounds like it's been around for a bit. The source mentioned, over 10 years? And a lot of sales?
Yeah, the information does say it's been on the market for more than a decade and mentions over 15 million capsules sold.
Okay.
It's also highlighted as containing a pretty high concentration of live bacteria, 100 billion CFU per gram, specifically.
That sounds like a lot.
It's a high potency, yeah. And it also includes ingredients like cranberry and D-mannose, which people often link with urinary tract health.
Right, UTIs again. And it's described as having quite a mix of things in it.
It is, yeah. It's noted as having a 17-in-1 strain blend of probiotics.
17.
Yeah, quite a few. Specifically chosen, the material says, to address common issues like odor, itching, discharge.
The typical symptoms of imbalance.
Exactly. And the material also makes a point of saying it's non-GMO and made in facilities that are FDA registered and GMP certified. Good manufacturing practices.
Okay, so they're positioning it as a sort of comprehensive support. Let's dig into some of the key ingredients then.
Yeah.
What are the standouts and what are their specific benefits meant to be, especially thinking about vaginal health and fertility, according to the info, of course?
Sure. So looking at that ingredient list, you see, as expected, a variety of lactobacillus strains. Each is kind of known for slightly different things.
Okay.
For instance, Lactobacillus acidophilus. That one's really well known for helping restore that healthy vaginal pH and sort of keeping undesirable bacteria in check.
The main player, maybe?
One of the main ones, definitely. Then there's Lactobacillus rhamnosus. That's highlighted more for boosting immune defenses in the area, reducing inflammation, and just supporting overall balance.
Mm-hmm.
And Lactobacillus reuteri is mentioned for promoting tissue repair and, again, reducing inflammation in the vaginal lining.
So helping things heal.
Potentially, yes.
Mm.
And Lactobacillus plantarum. This one's noted for acting as an antioxidant and helping to strengthen the actual protective barrier of the vagina.
Okay, so those cover the main probiotic bases. What about some of the other things listed? I think I saw cranberry, oregano.
Yes. So the cranberry and D-mannose are included with the idea of helping prevent harmful bacteria from sticking to the walls of the vagina and the urinary tract.
Taking it harder for UTIs to start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which can lower the risk of UTIs and that knock-on inflammation. Then oregano leaf extract is featured as a natural antimicrobial.
Ah.
So it works to combat those less desirable bacteria and fungi. But the idea is that it does so while hopefully preserving the good lactobacillus.
A targeted approach. Interesting. And there were a few others that jumped out at me. Caprylic acid, aloe vera, reishi mushroom. What's the thinking there?
Right. Caprylic acid is often included in these kinds of formulas for its potential to target yeast overgrowth. So helping prevent recurrent yeast infections and maintain that balance.
Sure.
Aloe vera leaf, well, most people know it's soothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the aim there is to calm inflamed tissues, reduce irritation, and support healing of the vaginal and even cervical lining.
That makes sense.
And interestingly, yeah, the reishi mushrooms is in there too. It's thought to help reduce chronic inflammation, support immune function generally, and again, potentially promote tissue healing.
Wow, that is quite a combination. It sounds very targeted. So if we try and pull this all together, how does Balance Complex, based on the info we have, aim to support overall vaginal health and potentially fertility?
Well, the primary way, as we've kind of hammered home, is by helping restore that crucial vaginal microbiome, replenishing the good lactobacillus,
Got it.
which helps maintain that optimal acidic pH, so vital for sperm. Then you've got the anti-inflammatory ingredients like the aloe and reishi. They directly target inflammation, soothing tissues, promoting healing.
Mm-hmm.
The natural antimicrobials like oregano and caprylic acid, they're intended to help prevent those recurring infections, BV, yeast, that can really hinder fertility.
Okay.
And by supporting tissue health and resilience overall, it aims to strengthen that vaginal barrier function, just creating a more supportive environment for conception, hopefully.
And the immune boosting bits.
All right, finally, the immune boosters like Arab-Muglactan and Richishi again, they work to enhance the body's own natural defenses against infection and help manage that inflammation.
So the big takeaway message here seems to be that by really prioritizing vaginal health, people can take a proactive and potentially quite significant step if they're facing infertility challenges.
That really is the key insight, I think. By focusing on getting that vaginal microbiome balanced, minimizing inflammation and infections, the goal is to create a much better environment.
An optimal environment.
Yeah, an optimal environment where sperm have a better shot at survival and fertilization can actually happen. The material we reviewed definitely presents Balance Complex as offering a kind of comprehensive strategy to support that by, restoring balance, helping prevent infections, and ultimately protecting overall vaginal health.
This has been incredibly enlightening. It really shines a light on a connection that maybe isn't always top of mind when thinking about fertility.
It often isn't, no.
Now, towards the end of the information, there was a mention of a resource, vaginalquiz.com. And they specifically said, pronounce it Vaginalquiz.com. What's that about?
Yes, vaginalquiz.com. It's presented as a short, science-backed questionnaire.
Okay.
The idea is to give individuals a sort of personalized assessment of their vaginal health. The goal is to help people get some insights into maybe potential imbalances they're experiencing, and then provide some expert-backed recommendations tailored to their specific needs or symptoms.
So it's like a way to get a better handle on your own intimate wellness, maybe before rushing off to a doctor or just to be more informed.
Exactly. It's framed as kind of a first step, understanding what might be going on, potentially identifying areas where you could focus on supporting your vaginal health.
And what happens after the quiz?
Well, the site says that after completing it, users get a customized analysis of their vaginal health profile, potential imbalances, and then suggestions.
Suggestions like?
Could be supplements, maybe lifestyle tweaks, things like that, to help restore natural balance.
Interesting. It sounds like a tool really designed to empower people, to take a more informed, proactive approach to their own vaginal health.
That certainly seems to be the intention, yes. Presented as a way to kind of demystify vaginal health and offer some actionable insights.
Well, this deep dive has really illuminated such a crucial aspect of reproductive health. It's so easy to focus only on, the hormones or the timing when navigating infertility, but the health of the vaginal environment clearly plays this significant and, often underestimated role.
Absolutely. And just gaining that deeper understanding of your own body and taking informed steps to support its natural functions. Yeah. It's just so vital, isn't it?
It really is. And for anyone listening who might want to explore this part of their health more, vaginalquiz.com, again, that's vaginalquiz.com, sounds like it could be a helpful starting point.
A way to get some personalized insights, yeah.
It's definitely a good reminder that our bodies are these incredibly intricate ecosystems. Paying attention to all the interconnected parts, like vaginal health, can be just a crucial piece of the puzzle on the journey towards reproductive wellness.
Well said.
Definitely something valuable to explore further, and of course, always good to discuss with your healthcare providers to get that truly personalized guidance and recommendations.
Couldn't agree more. Always consult your doctor for personal health decisions.